my wife announced. I'm taking the house, the car, and half your salary. You signed the Ironclad Prenup, idiot. I just smiled calmly and let her laugh. I let her believe she had won everything so completely. My lawyer later explained our prenup's strict infidelity clause to her. She left with only her clothes and all of her massive credit card debt. I, 38 male, had been with my wife, Isabella, 32, for 5 years. I met her when my logistics software company was just starting to take off. I had built it from the ground up, and by the time we got serious, my net worth was around $5,000. My lawyer, a man who had seen it all, insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Isabella threw a fit. She called it unromantic and insulting. But in the end, she signed the document that protected all my pre-existing assets in my company. In exchange, it guaranteed her a generous settlement in case of a no-fault divorce. We settled into a lavish life in Miami. We had a waterfront house in Coral Gables, a 40-foot yacht, and a membership at the most exclusive country club. Isabella quit her job at an art gallery to become a philanthropist and design consultant, which meant she spent her days shopping and planning parties. My company continued to grow. An opportunity arose that was too big to ignore, a massive expansion into the Southeast Asian market. The plan required me to be on the ground in Singapore for at least a year to oversee the launch. It was a stressful but exhilarating prospect. I told Isabella over dinner on our terrace, expecting her to be excited about the adventure. A year, she said, setting down her wine glass. You expect me to move to Singapore? Wa'd have an amazing life there, and it would secure our future for decades. I have a life here, Marcus, she said sharply. My friends, my charities. This is for us, I urged. It's the biggest step the company has ever taken. She looked out at the water, her expression cold. No, she said. It's the biggest step your company has ever taken. You built it to have freedom, not to become a slave to it. You're not abandoning me for a year. Update 1. Her refusal was a red line. The expansion was non-negotiable for the future of my company. I told her I had to do it, with or without her temporary relocation. I started making the arrangements, holding virtual meetings with the new Singapore team late at night, due to the time difference. Isabella responded with a glacier of passive aggression. She gave me the silent treatment for days, then would suddenly become overly affectionate. She started spending more and more time at the country club. She gushed about her new tennis instructor, a handsome guy named Jean-Pierre. She insisted we invite him to our parties. I didn't think much of it at first, but as I began quietly organizing my life for a year-long absence, my suspicions grew. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional recommended by my lawyer. I felt sick doing it, but I needed certainty. The PI was efficient. Within a week, he provided a report that turned my stomach. It was a detailed summary of Isabella's affair with the tennis pro, complete with photos of them at a boutique hotel in South Beach and records of expensive gifts she had bought him. The certainty I wanted was now a cold, hard stone in my gut. Update 2. I didn't explode. My anger was cold and clear. I waited for her to come home from the club that evening, smelling of expensive perfume and cheap lies. I didn't raise my voice. I simply placed a single, glossy photograph on the marble kitchen island. It was a picture of her and Jean-Pierre, kissing on the balcony of the hotel. She froze. For a moment, she looked terrified. But that quickly morphed into defiance. So what? She spat. You were never here anyway, always working. That's not an excuse, Isabella. I don't need an excuse, she yelled. I'm glad you know. I want a divorce. Fine by me, I said quietly. Her eyes lit up with a greedy fire. She thought she had all the cards. She thought my guilt over leaving for Singapore would make me generous. Good, she sneered. Then she delivered her master plan. I'm taking the house, the car, and half your salary. You signed the Ironclad prenup, idiot. She actually laughed, a cruel, triumphant sound. She believed the document that guaranteed a settlement was her golden ticket. She had no idea it was actually her doom. Update 3. The fallout was immediate and, on her part, very public. She packed a few suitcases and moved into a penthouse suite at the Fontainebleau, telling the staff to bill it to our joint account. She immediately went on a revenge spending spree, buying thousands of dollars worth of clothes and jewelry. She called all our mutual friends, telling them a dramatic story of my workaholism and neglect, and how she was finally getting the massive payout she deserved. I, on the other hand, was methodical. The morning after her announcement, I called my lawyer and said 2 words. Clause 12. He knew exactly what it meant. I had all joint credit cards canceled. I had the locks on the house changed. My lawyer sent her lawyer a polite but firm letter stating that, per our agreement, she was not to enter the property. I sold the yacht. I let my club membership lapse. I was systematically dismantling the life she thought she owned. While she was celebrating her victory, I was quietly burning her kingdom to the ground. A week later, I was on a flight to Singapore. Update 4. The Singapore launch was the most intense and rewarding work of my life. I worked 18-hour days, but I was building something real. The venture was a runaway success. I felt powerful and focused, free from the drama and deceit of my marriage. I rented a stunning apartment overlooking Marina Bay Sands. I joined an expat business network and made new, genuine friends. After a few months, I started getting confused messages from Isabella's family. Isabella said her settlement was coming through. Her mother wrote in an email, "Is there a delay?" I replied politely, "All communications are being handled by our lawyers. I suggest you speak with Isabella." I soon learned the truth. Isabella had been lying to everyone for months, telling them the divorce was just a formality and her multi-million-dollar payout was imminent. She was living on borrowed money from her parents, promising to pay them back as soon as my accounts were unfrozen. She had no idea the accounts were never going to be hers. Update 5. My company's successful Asian expansion became a major story in several international business publications. Our valuation doubled. My personal net worth skyrocketed. The articles featured my photo and celebrated the strategic vision I had implemented. There was no hiding my success. Back in Miami, Isabella's hotel bill came due. Her credit cards were declined. In a panic, she called her lawyer, demanding to know where her money was. Her lawyer, in turn, called mine. That was when my lawyer executed the final move. He sent over the private investigators complete file photos, videos, hotel receipts. He also sent a copy of our prenup with one section highlighted in yellow. Clause 12. The infidelity clause. It stated that in the event of documented adultery, the signer forfeits any and all claims to marital assets, shared property, and any form of alimony or settlement. The document she thought was her safety net was actually her trap, and she had walked right into it. The pleading emails, full of typos and desperation, began flooding my inbox. Update 6. She must have bought a last-minute ticket with her parents' money. 2 weeks later, she showed up unannounced in the lobby of my Singapore office building. The confident, arrogant woman I knew was gone. She looked desperate and worn out. "Marcus, please," she begged as I met her downstairs. "We have to talk. There's nothing to discuss." "I made a mistake?" she cried. "A horrible, stupid mistake. The affair meant nothing. I was just lonely because you were always working." "You weren't lonely, Isabella. You were greedy." "I'll do anything," she pleaded. "Just give me something. A fair settlement. I can't leave with nothing." I looked at her, my expression unreadable. "You thought it was fair to take half of a company I bled for," I said. "You thought it was fair to cheat on me while living in my house. The prenup is what's fair. It's the agreement you made. You will get exactly what you deserve." I turned and walked back to the elevator, leaving her standing there as my security guard politely asked her to leave. Update 7. Her desperation turned into a legal Hail Mary. She fired her lawyer and hired a notorious shark who specialized in contesting prenups. They filed a motion to have the agreement invalidated, claiming she had signed it under duress and didn't understand what it meant. It was a pathetic, transparent lie. My lawyer presented the evidence in a preliminary hearing. He had the email records of her negotiating the terms. He had a video of the signing, where both lawyers explained every clause to her in detail, including the infidelity clause. The judge dismissed her case in less than 20 minutes and warned her lawyer about filing frivolous lawsuits. Her final move was a social media smear campaign, but her reputation was already ruined. The friends she had bragged to about her big settlement now saw her for the fraud she was. My silence and success stood in stark contrast to her loud, chaotic desperation. No one believed her. Update 8. A year later, my life was unrecognizable. The company was a global powerhouse. I split my time between my home in Miami and my apartment in Singapore. I was calmer, healthier, and more focused than ever before. I had also met someone. Her name was Amelia, a brilliant architect I'd met through a business associate in Singapore. She was my intellectual and emotional equal. Our relationship was built on respect and shared passions, not transactions. I got a final email from Isabella, sent from a generic Gmail account. She was working in retail. Her parents had cut her off, and she was buried in debt from her spending sprees and legal fees. It was a short, broken message, ending with the words, "I'm sorry. I ruined my own life." I read it, felt a brief flicker of pity, and then replied, "I wish you well, Isabella." Then I blocked the account and moved on. Final update: several months later, I attended a charity gala in Miami with Amelia. Across the ballroom, I saw Isabella's parents. They looked mortified to see me, but her father approached me, his shoulders slumped. "Marcus," he said, his voice heavy. "I just want to apologize. We raised her to value the wrong things. We taught her that being taken care of was an accomplishment. We are deeply sorry for her actions and the shame she brought." I accepted his apology. Later that night, standing on the terrace with Amelia, looking at the city lights, I reflected on the whole ordeal. Isabella had seen our marriage as a contract to be exploited. I saw it as a promise. She failed to understand that the prenup wasn't just a legal document, it was a test of character. A test she had failed spectacularly. The ultimate lesson was simple. Your integrity is your most valuable asset. It's the one thing no one can take from you, and the one thing you can't buy back once you've sold it. I had protected my company, but more importantly, I had protected my self-respect. And that was a victory worth more than any amount of money.